Hey everybody, happy Thursday and welcome back to Tavian's World of Reptiles. If you watched my video yesterday, you remember me saying that Antiope was in a bit of a grouchy mood and had some sort of an attitude yesterday. And if you were really paying attention throughout the sped up process of me filling the water bowls back into the enclosures, you might have seen the little interaction that I had with her. But it was very sped up, so if you didn't catch it, here it is now. Hey! Man, did y'all see that? She tried to bite me. Yeah, you tried to bite me. You had an attitude yesterday. Yeah, she's out. She was rubbing at glass. So, yeah, I've had her for about a year and 3 months. She was 3 months old when I got her. So, I've had her for a year and a half. And in all that time, she has never, ever attempted to bite me. So, yesterday, I was super, super surprised by that behavior. And I really didn't know what to do about it. No, I mean, I wasn't too worried about it. I just didn't understand where it was coming from. So I really just had to kind of step back and really think about what it was that I might have done to provoke her to actually want to strike me. Because my behavior hasn't been different with the way that I approach her, or at least so I thought. But I really had to really step back and think about everything that's changed and why this behavior was different. I know she's getting older, so obviously behaviors are going to adjust a little bit, but this was just different. I worked really hard to make sure that all of my snakes have really good feeding responses, except I like to think about it as a strong feeding response, but a thoughtful feeding response. What do I mean by that? So, oftentimes, I really like to make sure that my snakes kind of hesitate before they eat, and that involves me regularly going in and touching them all throughout the day, every day, not just opening their enclosure when it comes time for feeding. I started doing things differently with Antiope. I had to sit down and really think about what I was doing differently, but when I thought about it, I realized that was probably what was happening. So with Antiope, I started off doing like I do with all of my snakes. I have regular interactions with her just by reaching into her enclosure and petting her, or just going in there, moving her substrate around, and doing stuff like that. So what started being different with me and Antiope was that I started just opening the door and letting her roam out on her own. And not that I wasn't doing that before, but since I started doing that more often, I stopped really feeling the need to reach in and touch her often. I just wanted her to have regular interactions with me, but I started doing those interactions more outside of the enclosure than in the enclosure. And I think that's where things went different. Instead of regularly touching her like I normally did, I would just let her out. And yeah, I went in there and did water changes, and yes, I did do spot cleaning, but it wasn't the same as just going in there and petting her like I was doing on a daily basis since I got her. So I think with that, things started to change with her feeding response. So when she did bite me yesterday, that was about what, 3 or 4 days after she had eaten. So it wasn't necessarily that she necessarily, maybe it was just a lingering feed response because she was still kind of in it, and because of things that have changed with the way that I'm handling it, maybe her feeding response seems to last a little bit longer than just on feeding day. Because usually she comes out and about and she's ready to go the next day. Like everybody else tends to relax and chill out and not really want to be handled when it comes to after feeding. But Antiope is one of the very first ones at the door the next day after feeding, ready to go. So, I didn't really think anything was different until she actually struck at me. And I realized that my interactions inside of her enclosure has changed. My interaction with her inside of her enclosure has, as recently, been mostly me going in there, feeding, getting her water bowl out, and doing the occasional spot clean. Now, you saw that at some point I had my corn snake out. Now, she's different. She roams out, but I have to go in there regularly. I don't also do too much tapping with her, touching with her either, because she does get a lot of outside roaming. But she's different because she poops a lot more. And Type doesn't use the bathroom nearly as much as my corn snake for whatever reason. And so I'm regularly inside of my corn snake's enclosure, digging through her and her substrate looking for poop. Also because she buries her stuff, and so I have to go in digging and looking around. And so inside of her enclosure, she gets a lot of interaction with me. So she's not as like quick to strike, even though she also feeds in her enclosure and has outside roaming time the same as Antiope. But I think Antiope really just needed to continue having the inside the enclosure handling experience, because it definitely her after a few days after feeding responses has seems to be going up a little bit. The last time I fed her, besides this more recent time, the one before that, she showed the first signs of this happening actually. I opened up her enclosure to do a spot clean, and she came out like she normally does. She always comes out as soon as the door is open, except this time she came out very fast as if she was going to strike my hand. She did not open her mouth. In fact, she got right up to my hand and then stopped. And so that was a good thing, but it was definitely a sign that something was coming. And so I probably should have listened to that. And when I went in there yesterday to do the water clean, she actually struck at me. She did not get me, but it was still a surprising but also not so surprising act from her. So back to the thing I was saying about having a strong feeding response, but also a thoughtful feeding response. So a lot of people consider strong feeding responses, so meaning they have their rats ready and their snake is right at the door, ready to go, and snatches that thing all sorts of crazy, really hard, really quickly, and eats it. That's a strong feeding response for a lot of people. And for a lot of people, that's a good sign. That means it's a healthy snake, and they kind of strive for them to have a strong feeding response, and that's a positive thing and everything. And I think a strong feeding response for me personally means that they eat consistently without me having to assist them. That they eat every single time without any type of worry. Now that does not mean they strike every single time without hesitation. That I'm not a fan of. That I strive to not happen. And for me, how I make that happen is to interact with my snakes regularly inside of their enclosure, so that they don't get the sense that every time their enclosure is being opened, it might mean dinner time. So for them, I want them to feel like every time their enclosure is getting opened, it could mean a number of things. So let me see what that means. So usually most of my snakes don't come out flying when I have food ready. They're not right at the door waiting for it. They might smell it. Most of the time they're sleeping, and so I kind of have to wake them up to get them to eat. But even when they are awake, they're not right at the door ready to strike the moment the door opens. They're there. They come at the mouse or rat, whatever it is I'm feeding, but there's always a moment of hesitation. Like they get close to it, they sense what it is, and then they strike. And I think this has a lot to do with the fact that I actually regularly am going inside of their enclosure, either touching them or something inside of their enclosure so that they come out and know that I'm there. And because of that, they're a little less hesitant to just strike at the first thing that comes into their enclosure, and that includes food. That does not mean they don't eat. They mean they eat. They strike. The moment they realize that it is food, they strike and they eat just fine. However, they're thoughtful about it. It's not just an automatic, I'm ripping into what's coming into this enclosure at every moment. I'm just not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of snakes, of seeing snakes that are like that. It can be unnerving, and I think it can make anybody who might come across, seeing that a little bit concerned about keeping snakes. I think you can teach a snake. I mean, yes, you can't teach a snake like you can teach a cat and dog tricks, but I do believe that you can help a snake to learn to think twice before striking something that's coming inside of their enclosure. I think it's important to teach them that. This is just my own personal experiment. I slacked with it with Antiope because she got so just like self-sufficient and just came out so willingly on her own that I didn't really have to reach in for her as much, that I slacked with it a little bit, and that was my fault. And because of that, it got her feeding responses lasting a lot longer past her actual feeding day. Like I said, about 4 days after feeding, she was still in that mood, and that was the same way the last time. She was pretty like quick to be coming out and wondering if I was food rather than just wondering what exactly was happening. I want my snakes to come out wondering what's happening, not just automatically knowing it's food, because of how often I go inside of their enclosure. It's not always food. Like rarely for them is it food. So because of that, I want them to. Because of that, they tend to not strike the feeder quite as quickly, because 90% of the time when that door opens, it's not food, because most of them only get fed every other week. Obviously, one of them gets fed every 6 weeks. and very few of them are getting fed every week. So, you know, either way, they're all getting that sense of it's not always dinner time. And so that's what I strive to do be about. And I slacked with her, and I'm going to get back on that with her to see if we can get that feeding response back down to a strong but thoughtful feeding response. That's what I like to think about it. That's how I like my snake's feeding responses to be. Strong but thoughtful. So, yeah, just a quick video on that. This girl got fussy and tried to bite me yesterday. She did not make contact. It was the very first time she ever did it. She's a year and a half and had never tried to bite me. So, when it comes to different things like that, when it comes to the snake behavior, I like to connect what's happening in this specific situation to every aspect of their life. Like if they're not eating, what's happening in every other area of their life? If they're staying hiding all the time, what's happening in every other area of their life? If they're suddenly turning into a very bitey snake, what's happening in every other area of their life? What can I do to adjust it? What can I do to fix it? What can I do? And I just love to just keep learning. My snakes keep me learning. They're always changing their attitudes and their likes and their wants, and so I have to keep learning what their likes and their wants are and what I'm doing handling wise that might be different, that might need to go back to doing, that I might need to stop doing. So, yeah. Alright, that's it, y'all. TWR signing out. I hope y'all are having a fantastic day. I hope you guys are loving your reptiles, loving yourself, and continuously spreading those herbs. TWR out.